Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Well, Indiana farmers are well into harvest in a year that has been unlike any other. Unprecedented wet weather made last year's corn and soybean harvest among the most challenging in memory. This year, farmers were hoping for a rebound, but were hit with the pandemic and plummeting crop prices in the spring, a host of challenges as the 2020 growing season unfolded. Right now, almost half of the state's corn crop has been harvested, while more than 70% of beans are in the barn. But farmers still have work ahead. And for perspective on how the state's important ag economy is holding up, pleased to welcome back to the show Indiana State Department of Agriculture Director Bruce Kettler. And Bruce, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here, Gary.
A roller coaster ride, to put it mildly, this year for Indiana agriculture. Give us your take on the state of agriculture and how things have progressed from a spring when there was a lot of uncertainty.
Well, I think you've characterized it very well, frankly. You know, there was some optimism coming out of the really difficult year last year. COVID-19, the pandemic hit, that certainly changed some things in agriculture in many ways. And then we had a lot of dry weather in the state of Indiana, particularly in parts of Indiana, where it was not very optimistic that some of our crops would do well, but there were some timely rains in some situations. But now in the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially the crop prices for corn and soybeans have improved. We've had some rebound in some of the livestock prices as well. And frankly, I think overall, we've had pretty good yields out of the corn and soybeans. Again, it's been variable, and there are parts of the state that certainly are not going to be what they had hoped. But overall, I think our crops have been resilient, and with the improvement in prices, that's provide a little more optimism, I would say, going into the fall.
Yeah, we talked this week with Brent. He's a farmer in Tippecanoe County, the Romney area, farms about 5,000 acres of seed corn and soybeans, and he talked about exactly that, how difficult it looked in the spring, and how things really have come back in a big way.
They have, and you know, I think for farmers and those that are involved in the production and agriculture, we know that we're going to be at the whim of the weather, in some cases the markets, but hopefully this gives everybody a little more optimism that we're going to go into next year with some things that have improved.
Yeah, absolutely, and to get a flavor for what ag farmers were thinking, here's what Brent had to say earlier in the week.
We really had painted a pretty bleak picture in the spring and really into the summer, into midsummer. We thought the crop was progressing fairly well. We were happy with conditions and that type of thing, but the price levels they just weren't there, and we were having trouble seeing how that was going to lead to a break even or to a profit for the year. You just have to maintain a positive outlook that things will be good, will continue to improve, we will get better and get through the next hurdle or get over the next hurdle.
And Bruce, so it sounds like things, generally speaking, have kind of improved to the point where 2020 is not looking nearly as challenging as it once was. Also, add on top of that, the USMCA, the new trade agreement with Mexico and Canada, what that might, offer for farmers going forward in terms of the outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really important agreement, and I think I've heard it said before, and I know I've shared with people as well. You know, you have to be able to show to the rest of the world that you can do business with your neighbors. And that's why the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement was so important from an agriculture perspective, is not only to help our crops and our livestock farmers, but being able to show them that we can work together and that we can work with our neighbors in a positive way. And I think USMCA sets us up for a lot of very positive things to happen in agriculture once we get past the pandemic and keep moving on.
And Bruce, another important development, I think, over the course of the past several months, the state using some CARES funding to help some of these meat processing operations, local processing operations around the state of Indiana that were hit very, very hard by the pandemic.
Absolutely. We have been able to get some dollars from the CARES Act that will be able to help with growth and expansion of our Indiana meat processors. We, in fact, just concluded those applications. We have 60 applications, and those will be reviewed, and we'll be able to get those out here pretty quickly. But it allows some of these meat processors to look at expansion, things like personal protective equipment if they've needed that. Maybe there's some employee training, or they need need some new equipment in order to keep this going, and we want to make sure that we help with that. It's a matching grant, a max of $150,000 per business, but they have to match and put money in to make it work, and we're excited to be able to offer that.
Yeah, and a number of ag organizations and related organizations have pivoted during the pandemic. I know there's a big announcement not long ago, a major investment by POET, the big biofuels company, shifting production at a biofuels plant here to produce ingredients that goes into hand sanitizer.
That's right. About a $25 million investment to add on to that plant, which was really going to help. And it's interesting how in just a few short months, all of a sudden we're worried about ethanol coming out of our plants to go to things like hand sanitizer. Yeah. But this is good. This will bring in about it'll create a market for about 10 to 12 million bushels more corn going into that plant just to be able to feed the ethanol that they're going to use for hand sanitizer.
Yeah. You'll have about 30 seconds left, Bruce, but kind of looking in the crystal ball, agriculture, the ag bioscience is such an important part of the Indiana economy. As you look ahead to 2021, cautious optimism? How would you frame it?
Yeah, I think cautious optimism is a good way to put it. What I find with people in agriculture, whether it's farmers or people that are supplying them and working in ag business, always know we've got to be optimistic. I think Brent said it very well. And there's always going to be opportunities for young people with careers and being able to participate in this. And with the changes in technology and things that are happening, I'm always optimistic that there's a place for anybody that wants to get involved in this business.
All right, Bruce Kettler is the director the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. Bruce, as always, thanks for some great perspective. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Gary.
All right.